Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Best wishes. At this time, there is a lot in the news or social media talking about the Rohingya ethnicity. What is going on? What's his fate now? And what is its history? Come on, let's find out about the history of the Rohingya. The Rohingya are an Indo-Aryan ethnic group from Rakhine, also known as Rakhine, or Rohingya in Rohingya, in Myanmar. Before the Rohingya genocide in 2017, when 740,000 ethnic Rohingya fled to Bangladesh, around 1.4 million Rohingya lived in Myanmar. The Rohingya are described by journalists and the media as one of the most persecuted ethnicities in the world, with the Myanmar government not granting citizenship to the Rohingya. There are restrictions on Rohingya movement in Myanmar, access to education, and government services due to their stateless status, with conditions experienced by the Rohingya having been compared to apartheid. Early history of Rakhine. The Kingdom of Rakhine was a kingdom that existed on the coast of Rakhine from 1429 to 1785. Headquartered in the capital city of Rakhine, near the eastern coast of the Bay of Bengal, the kingdom ruled over what is now the Rakhine state of Myanmar and the southern part of the Chittagong division of the country of Bangladesh. Although initially a protectorate of the Bengal Sultanate from 1429 to 1531, Rakhine later conquered Chittagong with Portuguese assistance. He twice repelled Townga Burmese attempts to conquer the kingdom in 1546 to 1547 and 1580 to 1581. At the height of his power, he briefly controlled the coastline of the Bay of Bengal from the Sundarbans to Martaban Bay from 1599 to 1603. In 1666, he lost control of Chittagong after a war with the Mughal Empire. His reign continued until 1785, when he was conquered by the Konbaung dynasty in Burma. Mughal era. Rakhine lost control of the western tip of the west bank of the Naf River in southeastern Bengal after the Mughal conquest of Chittagong. In 1660, Prince Shah Shuja, Mughal governor of Bengal and claimant to the Peacock throne, fled to Rakhine with his family after being defeated by his brother Emperor Aurangzeb during the Battle of Kajwa. Shuja and his entourage arrived in Rakhine on August 26, 1660. He was granted asylum by King Sanda Thudama. In December 1660, the king of Rakhine confiscated Shuja's gold and jewelry, leading to a rebellion by refugees from the Mughal Empire. According to various accounts, Shuja's family was killed by Rakhinese, while Shuja himself probably fled to a kingdom in Manipur. However, members of Shuja's entourage remained in Rakhine and were recruited by the royal army, including as archers and palace guards. They were kingmakers in Rakhine until the Burmese conquest. The Portuguese and Rakhinese continued their attacks on Mughal Bengal, which included an attack on Dhaka in 1625. Several centuries later, the Rakhine kingdom was conquered on December 31, 1784, by the Burmese Konbaung dynasty. In 1826, Rakhine was ceded to the British as war reparations following the First Anglo-Burmese War. It became part of the Burmese province of British India in 1886, following the annexation of Burma by the British. Rakhine became part of the British Crown colony of Burma, which was separated from British India in 1937. Northern Rakhine State was a contested battleground during the Japanese occupation of Burma. After 1948, Rakhine became part of the newly independent state of Burma. However, Rakhine's independence only remained on paper after several years because Myanmarization or Myanmar nationalism broke out in civil war throughout the country. In 1973, Rakhine became a state of the United Socialist Republic of Burma, designated as the homeland of the Rakhine people. During the colonial period, the Rakhine people resisted the kingdom's conquest for decades afterward. Resisting Rakhine resistance, led initially by Nathanda and eventually by Chin Bayan in the border areas, led to problems between British India and Burma. 1826 saw the defeat of the Bamar in the First Anglo-Burmese War, and Rakhine was ceded to the British under the Treaty of Yandabo. Sittwe, Akyab, was then designated as the new capital of Rakhine. In 1852, Rakhine was incorporated into Lower Burma as a territorial division. During the Second World War, Rakhine, Arakan, was given autonomy under Japanese occupation and even given its own army known as the Arakan Defense Force. The Arakan Defense Force went over to the Allies and turned against Japan in early 1945. After independence in 1948, Rakhine, Arakan, became a division of the Union of Burma. Not long after that, religious violence broke out between Buddhists and Muslims. Recently, there were calls to separate from Rakhine, Arakan, but these efforts were suppressed. In May 1946, Muslim leaders from Arakan met Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the founder of Pakistan, and requested the formal annexation of two townships in the Mayu region, Buthodong and Mongda, to East Bengal, now Bangladesh. 2 months later, the North Arakan Muslim League was founded in Akyab, now Sittwe, capital of Rakhine State, which also asked Jinnah to annex the region. Jinnah refused, saying he could not interfere in Burma's internal affairs. After Jinnah's refusal, a proposal was submitted by the Muslims of Arakan to the newly formed post-independence Burmese government, requesting the concession of the two townships to Pakistan. This proposal was rejected by the Burmese parliament. Local mujahideen, numbering around 2,000 to 5,000 fighters, were then formed to fight the Burmese government. Led by Mir Qasim, the mujahideen began targeting government troops stationed in the region and seized territory, in the process driving ethnic Rakhine communities from their villages, some of whom fled to East Bengal. In November 1948, martial law was declared in the region, and the 5th Burma Rifles Battalion and 2nd Chin Battalion were sent to liberate the area. In June 1949, the Burmese government's control of the region was reduced to the town of Akyab, while the Mujahideen controlled almost all of northern Arakan. After several months of fighting, Burmese forces were able to push the Mujahideen back into the jungles of the Mayu region, near the country's western border. In 1950, the Pakistani government warned its Burmese counterparts about their treatment of Muslims in Arakan. Burmese Prime Minister U Nu immediately sent a Muslim diplomat, P. Kin, to negotiate a memorandum of understanding for Pakistan to stop aiding the Mujahideen. Qasim was arrested by Pakistani authorities in 1954, and many of his followers later surrendered to the government. The post-independence government accused the Mujahideen of encouraging the illegal immigration of thousands of Bengalis from East Bengal to Arakan during their control of the region, a claim that has been widely debated for decades, as it raises questions about the legitimacy of the Rohingya ethnic group. As a native of Arakan, historically, this region contained an independent kingdom between Southeast Asia and India. The Myanmar government considers the Rohingya to be immigrants who came from Chittagong in Bangladesh during the British colonial era. The Myanmar government argues that the pre-colonial Muslim population is recognized as Kaman, and that the Rohingya equate their history with that of Arakanese Muslims in general to advance its separatist agenda. Additionally, the Myanmar government does not recognize the term Rohingya and labels the community as ethnic Bengalis. Various armed insurgencies by the Rohingya have occurred since the 1940s, and society as a whole has faced harsh crackdowns from the Myanmar military in 1978, 1991 to 1992, 2012, 2015, and especially in 2016 to 2018. When most of the Rohingya population was Myanmar was driven out of the country, to neighboring Bangladesh. As of December 2017, an estimated 625,000 refugees from Rakhine, Myanmar, had crossed the border into Bangladesh since August 2017. UN officials and Human Rights Watch have described Myanmar's persecution of the Rohingya as ethnic cleansing. A UN investigation found evidence of increasing incitement to hatred and religious intolerance by ultranationalist Buddhists against the Rohingya, while Myanmar security forces have carried out mass executions, enforced disappearances, arbitrary arrests and detentions, torture and ill-treatment, and forced labor against the Rohingya community. Currently, the use of the name Rohingya is polarized. The Myanmar government refuses to use the name. In the 2014 census, the Myanmar government forced ethnic Rohingya to identify themselves as Bengali. Many Rohingya consider the denial of their name to be tantamount to a denial of their basic rights, and the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in Myanmar has agreed. Jacques Leiter writes that many Muslims in Rakhine prefer to call themselves Arakanese Muslims or Muslims who came from Rakhine rather than Rohingya. According to a 2015 report by the International Human Rights Clinic at Yale Law School, Rohingya are not included in the law. The Myanmar government considers immigration that occurred during British rule to be illegal. The Rohingya are considered a new creation for political reasons. It is based on this reason that Myanmar refuses to grant citizenship to most Rohingya. This rejection causes many Buddhists in Myanmar to consider the Rohingya to be Bengalis. Since the 1970s, a series of crackdowns on Rohingya in Rakhine State have forced hundreds of thousands to flee. They went to Bangladesh, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and other Southeast Asian countries. During the attacks, refugees frequently reported rape, torture, and killings by Myanmar security forces. In November 2016, a UN official accused the government of carrying out ethnic cleansing against the Rohingya. This situation has led to one of the world's most pressing refugee crises. Not only in Myanmar, Rohingya also received rejection from various countries. The reason is, their behavior in the country where they are displaced makes their hosts angry. For this reason, they chose to come to Indonesia, which is famous for its friendly people. That is a brief history of the Rohingya people. From the story above we can conclude that the Rohingya people are Muslims who were persecuted by the Burmese government of Myanmar. And they are looking for peace in other countries. As humanity, we should help people who need help, and most importantly from the government, which is taking a leading role in resolving the current conflict among the Rohingya people. That's our story. Maybe if there are additions from friends, you can comment so that we can increase our knowledge regarding history. We say goodbye, hopefully it's useful. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.